Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Barcast TV. It is March 21st, 2024, and this is the Bar Academy. We're joined by none other than Pro Razor. Razor, welcome.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
And thanks for coming on. So, Razor here submitted a ticket to the Bar Academy to work with a mentor. This is one of the replays he submitted, a 1v1 on Heartbreak Hill versus none other than a round of 16 BPL player, Lord Vader, who I personally know is a pretty strong 1v1 player, so good to get some practice matches against him. Have you played Vader before, Razor?
I think once or twice, but probably earlier on, like when I'd only been playing for a couple of weeks. So this was the first time where I had like a month and a half of gameplay under my belt. So
Yeah. So you've just recently found Bar and have been practicing a lot from what I can tell. Is that decent characterization of your experience so far, or how long you've been
yeah,
playing?
yeah, that's fair to say. I think like half the recent replays submitted to the academy have just been me because I don't know, I seem like quite determined to get better despite my lack of talent.
Well, no, I don't. I think it's mostly understanding. With this game, it's a pretty complex game, so it goes a long way, like just making the right decisions, right? So, um, oh goodness, well, that's good you're practicing, and I really appreciate maybe investing the time in someone who might take something away from it, right? So good to see you practicing. Let's get into this then. So, Heartbreak Hill. Do you have any thoughts about this map before we get too far along?
Well, I mean, it's a really terrain heavy map. I think bots are obviously the preferred choice here. It's not the only choice. I have seen people start vehicles, especially on the high ground.
That is definitely an option. The iterations I've seen. Correct me. This what are you thinking of? Like doing the vehicle labs. I haven't seen them too many on the top side here, but definitely from this position, right? Because like one LLT gives you all these mexes for free, something like that. So not the worst spawn in the world, but we definitely
Yeah,
do see bots
it,
more often than not.
I have seen some strong vehicle pushes. There was a build Ragnar did where he started up there and then pushed along with some tanks and some artillery, and then once he got artillery next to the cliff above Veda's base just there, he was able to shoot into not Veda, it was someone else he was playing against. I think it was Blodir actually, but he was able to shoot into Blodir's base with artillery from the top of the cliff, which is interesting.
Right. Yeah, definitely some strats to play. So I'm looking at your open. We did four wind turbines. Well, you did the three mech start, four wind turbines before Pot Lab. Is this, or do you end up accessing energy here?
I don't believe so because I built two wins and then the third mechs and then another two wins straight into the lab. So
Okay, that ends up working out really well, it seems. So I don't see any wind turbines queued up just yet. Is this?
no, there's one queue just there. There you go. Yeah.
Do you play on grid?
I don't know. I did try it and I just found it really fiddly. I think having like sub menus with hotkeys, it's just a bit. I don't know. It's a bit much for me. I know other people get really good use out of it, but
I
yeah.
mean, you can see what I'm doing here, right? Like I have the commander selected, and it's like ZC, right? And I have the wind turbine. So I'm not sure if that's a little more efficient than what you're using, but
Yeah, I think
maybe now that you've
for
kind
me,
of like playing the game a lot, maybe try it again or just keep coming back trying it. I know. Anyways, I think if APM is an issue here, like we end up seeing something like that, I would recommend maybe giving it another go.
yeah, it's definitely on the list of things I'd like to do at some point. I know people that have switched have said good things about it.
One thing I was gonna say is your commander was facing this way. So if you're making the first wind turbines like after your factory finishes, it's like more build power efficient to not have to turn with your commander. It might be seem like super nitpicky, but
Oh yeah, no, that's a good point actually. I think I get really hung up on spacing my wins out, so I tend to put them in little clumps so that if they do get popped, they won't like chain react. But I think that also hampers me sometimes, and it's one of the reasons that I don't build enough energy because I decide, oh, there's nowhere else to build energy nicely here. So I end up like walking my commander over to a little spot somewhere else to build another little clump or whatever. I don't know.
So, I know that's a lot. It's like a big thing, right? So you don't want to lose your win. So if I can give you a one little tip to what you just said is, say your factory is here and your commander is here, right? Like your commander can, I mean, it defends a circle around him, right? But specifically, say if you build wind turbines like this, it's pretty hard to get those. I think you can build four actually around a bot lab, right? But it's pretty hard for units to like come in here and just not get immediately killed by the commander. So like, say if we looked at this position you have right here, say if your commander was like a little farther down that way, like you can build these wind turbines here, and like nothing is ever gonna kill those. So apart from the like extra ones you made, I'm wondering if we should even restart this because I think I wanted to share a thought on just starting up here with your commander and as opposed to the other way around, but not too big of a deal. I would recommend queuing up at least 4 wind turbines after your factory finishes, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see
Oh,
that.
here I am. I remember I memed in chat a bit in this game, and then Daywalker joined as well. So I started being like, oh great, Daywalker can watch me lose too.
Yeah. I don't mind losing in front of in front of the guys. That's what it is. What it is. Yeah. So,
Yeah, Go on, sorry.
well, I was just gonna say here, like obviously we're like stalling energy, so
Yeah, you're right. That's not great.
no. So I'm sure you know that solar collectors don't take energy to make. So if we're like trying to get specifically if we're trying to get a radar tower up, and your bot's taking energy, your bot lab's taking energy, just make a solar collector with the commander. I think that would have been here. And like coincidentally, wind is really low, but like regardless of wind speed, you can make a solar in that position. Not the worst thing in the world. I see you're actually not really spacing these wind turbines. Like we can definitely space those out a little more, right?
Yeah, I don't space them like each individual one usually at the start. I just tend to make sure that there's gaps in between them so that grunts can get between them if they have to chase other units.
Mm.
And I try not to have them all connected so you can't have like a massive chain reaction.
To your
But yeah,
point, about not spacing the early ones, I will say to that, it might be more important to do that because back to our example of the factory, like say you did something like this, and then you have what 4 wind turbines, right? So we have 8 wind turbines, and your commander's right here. If you want to move out with your commander, suddenly this becomes a really great place to place an LLT. So because it can defend, it can shoot around everything, and like we talked about earlier, it can still attack units that are trying to move in like this and get the ones next to the factory.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So space the wind turbines, early ones. I just maybe it's. I'm just trying to point out some things I see, right? So, or something I've experienced on my own, like I've just lost because or made a blunder because of these things.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Little details like that, they can actually be really impactful.
I can see. What is this? Con 2 grunts. Con. Oh, sorry. Here's a 3rd grunt over here. Maybe it's time to talk about something I've been messing around with, but when you do 2 mech starts, it seems safer to me, or has been safer, I'd say, to just go 2 cons first and then into grunt production. So like I guess maybe that's the one advantage it has. It's like you can get out more build power more quickly earlier and then move into grunt production, and you don't have to worry about like defending defending your cons off of a 3 mech start. It's a little easier.
Yeah, it's a good point actually. I suppose if you go to your mix, you've got 2 cons much sooner. So
I'm not sure if I won't harp on your micro mistakes too much because I think it's more important as a newer player to focus on the build order, the macro side of parts before like really getting into being aggressive, denying mexes, sniping radar, stuff like that.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
really super briefly though, like we see like we have this really great radar position right here. And like what do we need to protect actually? It's like this lane, and over here, this exposed con. So these units you have, sorry for the pings. I think this grunt specifically could actually just be moving this way and taking up that space. Like I don't know if it's I think you've parked it there.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
It's like your radar coverage literally extends to that position. So you could see a unit moving there. Like say this grunt was even farther forward, like suddenly you see this lane and this lane, something moving into that towards your radar coverage. So just my initial thoughts seeing that. I mean, this is really good. We're assisting the factory. We're getting our third con out.
Yeah. Not e-stalling actually, which is an improvement. Normally I'd be e-stalling at this point, but I'm actually not this game. So
Okay, so I'm gonna pause here again and comment on two things I see. This is fantastic. I love this. Um, for those who can't quite see the build path or the mexes quite well, it's like he's going with his third con, just capping these three mexes and then coming over here, adding the radar. I would have been super impressed if you had came up here, capped these two mexes, and then came up here and just capped these two mexes, and then added LLTs. I think as you know, I'm sure you've seen from the higher level guys, is they're really skimp on the LLTs,
yep.
more focus on
Yeah.
units and radar, and specifically with this radar position here, you can defend all of this. You can defend all of this with really good grunt positioning. So that's like the first thing I wanted to comment on. The second thing I noticed over here was this con. This is your second con. Excuse me. This is the second con you made, and
It is. Yeah.
I'm gonna maybe point out one thing I do. Maybe you tell me what you think about it. So with the second con, I'll actually cap this mix first. I'll come over here, cap this mix, right? That's not too big of a deal. But what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll place my first construction turret right here. Suddenly my commander can come and assist that. And after this construction turret, I'll add on 6 more wind turbines, another construction turret, and then I'll put a big wind turbine farm right there. Or you can put like 2 rows or something like that. You can put another wind turbine here and then do that. And then suddenly with your second con, you've scaled up to 1,000 energy production, right? And adding on con turrets. You could make an argument this con turret might be a little misplaced. We put it back here such that it can assist this factory. But I would recommend if you're not doing it, I see like I noticed your wind turbine positioning. It's I like the lines; those are really good for like denying sniping somehow coincidentally. But I think it'd be more important to use this real estate more efficiently, scaling E. Just my
Yeah.
2 cents.
I think one thing I need to do a lot more of really is just having con turrets dotted around to like help with building stuff in the base. It's something I haven't really experimented with much, to be honest. Outside of like 8v8, if you're playing eco, then obviously you've got a load of con turrets. But yeah, in 1v1s, I don't tend to build many of them. What I do on this map is I will build one just there, yeah, just there to guard the high ground when I put the vehicle lab up there.
Exactly.
But
Those ones are clean, really into space, but I'm sure you're aware of or have seen those high level guys. They're so good at like placing build power in the construction turrets around their base. So yeah, if you have like 3 cons scaling E, suddenly these con turrets can just spin back and forth, and it's like super efficient. I think Chisato specifically, I'm thinking of is super good at this. So Stardom also I know. So maybe some guys to check out some of their 1v1 replays and see exactly how they do it.
yeah,
Uh,
for sure. I think one of the problems is some of the very best players, they just don't tend to play much 1v1 these days.
mhm.
They don't have a lot of modern replays, so it can be difficult finding like the very best.
Razor, hit your boy up, man. I have all the Bar Pro League replays available to you. So it's I mean, there's some decent games in there. Definitely some stuff worth studying. So Those are
Yeah.
just pre-grunt nerf, I'd say, but the fundamentals, the mechanics of what they're doing hasn't changed. Like going into air lab, scaling E, adding on build power, all that stuff is the same. Second factories. So I've noticed a couple of times your commander has been idle. If you're not in the habit of shift clicking back to things, you should start getting in that habit. So, excuse me. What I mean is do your little construction queue and then shift click back, right click on the factory. We'll shift right click on the factory. Same for like construction bots. If you're adding on a little build queue, you want to add on a anti-air tower. Which check this out. If this is an argument for grid, right? I have the con selected. XA anti-air. Shift. You can hold what is it? Space. XA space. Left click. Suddenly the con is already building the you've like inserted that into the queue really quick and APM efficient.
Yeah, that is incredible. I've got to admit, I think with the default key, it's nice for building like simple things like mexes or wins. You just tap Z or X a couple of times, but like more esoteric structures can be a bit difficult. Yeah, so
Yeah, same for like LLTs, like XX or like X is LLT, XX is yeah, twin guard. Nice. This is really really great here. Oh, just barely.
yeah, it's a bit frustrating.
Not the end of the world because really like what I would be thinking here is just to insert a Alt X and insert a grave robber into the build queue. I know I wouldn't talk too much about this. I'm not gonna get you up on this over there. Not a big deal.
Yeah, that would just complete AFK micro. I think I just sent that grunt in that direction and it has died. But
I can comment briefly about just like grunts in this position. So like say I was playing as you and I had your vision right here. Let's see where are we at. We have two grunts down here protecting this con. So I would like feel okay, this is a huge problem, not knowing what's there because I want to expand there with this con, right? So I would be thinking not so much to be on this side of the line. I would be more concerned with taking these grunts and fanning them out to make sure there's nothing hiding here. I think I would do the same thing. What, this radar is good. I'd feel confident maybe if you've been paying attention the whole game, I would feel confident there's nothing back here, right? Just based off of these two radars. So in this position, fan grunts out this way, maybe with all of these, and then I would take these three, move them like here. Take this grunt. You're trying to get a run by, which is really nice. I like that. But I would really be like thinking to myself, where do I want to expand to? And do I know for sure that there's not a grunt up there to kill this? And like once you've found that information, suddenly you can like turn this way and start fanning out and attacking that way. And that's all done with like the spread command, like just doing this, like fanning up here, fanning this way, right? Instead of like pointing and clicking. This is something I've been doing a little bit with the grunts. It's just you gotta use the radar and the grunt to clear out areas, basically.
yeah, that makes sense.
This exploiter isn't terribly positioned. Yeah, this is a great position for an exploiter. I won't take that away from you. I would say maybe it's a little bit too early. I know we're 6 minutes into the game, but there was a little scuffle over here, right? He got a raid in, whatnot. But I would recommend, maybe if you feel so inclined, putting an LLT here. Like if you really want to play that defensive, put the LLT there. It still does the same thing. It blocks this run by. It's a little farther forward, right? So it protects like maybe even this channel here.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents. Like the radar is going to protect you. Say the LLT is here. The radar is going to protect underneath of it, so to speak, with like units out of your factory, right? So just my 2 cents. I know you have 250 metal in the bank, but I just think exploders are a little expensive. And if you can on this map, you might open yourself up to exploitation. But I would say cap these 3 mexes, add the radar here, and then cap these 4 mexes, and just don't even make LLTs. Just make it expand every time, and try and defend it with grunts. If it doesn't work out, you're practicing defending it, and if it does work out, you have an economic advantage because you quickly expanded and didn't make LLTs.
Yeah, that does sound like good practice actually, like intentionally, avoiding LLTs just so you can really focus on using your grunts to protect everything.
If I could make the analogy to like, that's a nice little raid right there actually. If I could make the analogy to Zerg, I think for those StarCraft players out there, you're always trying to like, have you played StarCraft, Razor?
A little bit, yeah, but only Wings of Liberty, so it's a good 10, 11 years ago or something now.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe just to comment real fast then, it's just like you're with the Zerg specifically, because of like the way the larva works, you're trying to make your drones earlier and push the limit, right? It's like be as greedy as possible with the drone production, getting out this economy and like earlier, and then you can start moving to unit production. So the same thing kind of applies here. It's like you want to hold off on investing in things like that and just getting up your eco as quickly as possible, and then put that into unit production, right? You got your concert coming. I'm sure there's a second factory. Do you have a timing for when you do the second factory, or like just kind of playing it by
I think
ear?
it tends to be just when I start to see my metal creeping upwards.
That's a good, yeah.
Like
That could be. I will say that could maybe lead you down making the wrong decision if like your metal's creeping up because you could have added on a second contour. You could have added more cons maybe more quickly. So that might not be the best indication of when to add the second factory. Maybe around like plus 30. We're getting really close, honestly. Like you have 500 in the bank, and pretty soon we'll have a couple more a couple more mexes come online. What is this? I'm not sure if you're, can you see this? I'm not sure if you're assisting that or not. I'm not sure what this blue line is, to be honest.
yeah, I think one of the cons is going to cap those mexes back there, and the other one I told to quickly grab that one there and then come back and assist that one. Oh, that one should be capping. Yeah, should be capping those
I
ones
see,
there.
I see. Okay.
And I told the other one to go and cap that one at the back and then come help that one build.
I know we've talked about grabbing these 4 mexes a couple times, but I like what you did, and this is exactly what I've seen a lot of players do is they'll send a second con up here and grab these mexes, right? So
Right.
quickly grabbing this top right quadrant, and expanding on this map can be kind of awkward. I'm not gonna lie. And getting raided. This is cool. I like this. Actually, 2 exploiters here. If we see this radius right here, perfectly cuts off this channel. I will say, maybe put an LLT right there, and scoot this radar like here or here. Obviously, like over here on the left, it's more vulnerable to run-bys, but if you have an LLT here and we put the radar there, suddenly it's protected. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
This radar is insane. Look at that. Oof. And look at this. This is perfect. Perfect positioning right here. At the extent of our radar coverage, there's still a lane we can run through. You have a grunt park there. That's just really good. This is, I like this control you're doing. We gave up the choke point, but we didn't take a bad engagement. Unfortunately,
I suspected he.
Go ahead, sorry.
I suspected he had a few more grunts than me, so I thought if I could like hold out the fight like a few more seconds, it would be to my benefit because we're next to my base and next to my production. So
Yeah, no, that's great. I see you're getting this LLT up here, so even taking an engagement might be bad for him. I will say this, you've clumped the grunts up, and I think you would have been much better served keeping them in a line, you know? So if he comes this way, you have that line. If he's trying to move this way, you're kind of like going like this, you know, moving them something like that. So
yeah, I think my thinking sometimes is that if they're in a clump, I want to reorganize my line to a completely different direction, then maybe it's a
oh,
bit faster.
oh
Because
no,
what I really want to do is try and get my my broadside against his
right,
narrow
right,
side
right.
of his line, so I can go in and focus fire where 20 grunts are just shooting his one ideally, but
That's a
he's
great
not.
idea. I didn't think about that. What you're saying is just like put them in a blob. So if you want to reorientate that line, it's quick kind of in any direction because it's
I,
you're in.
I, yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping to do. Because if I can catch him off guard and just he's looking elsewhere for a second, maybe I could just kill his army for free basically. But I don't think he's going to let me do it. Veda's too good for that. So
Knitters is good, but I know I like that idea. I might actually start trying to use that a little bit, and even smaller, like micro engagements. Say you have like 4 or 5 grunts, you can just put them in the blob and then quickly reorientate them. So I'm gonna start experimenting with that. So thanks for that one. I see your factories coming online. Something I do a lot is first like with these forward. This is not quite a forward, but we're under this pressure from grunts. I'll make a pounder first, which I guess you have one queued up, or did I queue those up? You queued those up. Okay, so hopefully this pounder is first. I'm not sure if you do that intentionally or every game. Yeah, super sick. Love this. Pounders are really good on this map.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
move
they're
one right there.
insane.
So something I've noticed Daywalker do, you're one of your teammates, and I've been using in my own games, is the unit composition going with core is going like 2 pounders into 10 lashers, and maybe into some medium tanks after that. And it's I've been using that a bit. It's pretty stable composition, and might be a little slow, but it definitely feels like if they pounce on your lashers, well, you have the pounders there. So, and
Yeah,
obviously,
I really want to start mixing in more lashes because I don't normally do it until I'm already getting shuried, and then I wish I had them, but I don't.
okay, so I can comment on that if you like. So we're here in the I wish I could bring up a notepad that everyone can see because it can be awkward writing on here. So to your point about not having AA and like maybe mid-game unit compositions. So talk about the vehicle plant first. We're not quite in the metal production to go medium tanks production. Right, sorry, we don't have the metal income to start medium tank production right away. So we're gonna stay on incisors for a moment. It seems like that's pretty good in 1v1s, I'd say. As far as like a factory queue goes, you can go like 5 or 6 incisors and one or two rascals on repeat. I would still be using like rascals to mix in with the incisors. And maybe one or like a one construction vehicle on repeat, sorry. But and then once we get into like we feel comfortable with the metal income to move into medium tank production, what I would recommend is doing like 10 medium tanks, 1 lasher, 1 construction vehicle on repeat. And you're gonna just bake into your factory queue, just like trickling in a few lashers here and there, but just mostly medium tanks, right? And for the bot lab, say we're in the mid game, whatever that means to you, right? We split the map. There's maybe not quite have gotten to AA. People have been on second factories. A build queue I've been doing is 10 grunts, 3 grave robbers, 1 thrasher on repeat. If you want to get like a build queue with grunts on repeat earlier, you can do something like 5 or 6 grunts, 1 grave robber. Like maybe what I mean by mid game, it's like you're not really focusing on like building up construction bots necessarily. It's like you just want to move into straight unit production, right? So it'd be like 5 or 6 grunts, 1 res bot. If you're more in the thick of the mid game, like huge res fields, go up to like 10 grunts, 3 res bots. And then yeah, the 1 lasher. You always have this 1 lasher in the build queue between a vehicle lab and a bot lab, and suddenly you have AA in your Tech 1 armies. And you'll get a feel for when to start doing this, and even like anticipating a tech switch from your opponent, like an air. Like you could very well be going Shuris. This is 1v1, and like of course these guys go into air labs super quick. So just kind of my 2 cents on
Yeah, that
factory
sounds
build
like a
queues.
really good habit. I think getting into like queuing in a mix of units rather than just like a monoculture.
Yeah, right.
But yeah,
And maybe back to our conversation about grid, right? How I would do that. So say I had this factory selected, it's got 20 I'll just talk about the keystrokes. We've got 20 incisors. Okay, so I'd hit G. That cancels the factory, right? Where is that on here? It stops whatever it's doing. Is that on here? Yeah, stop, G. So I select single left click on the factory, hit G, and then I'd go hold shift to make 5 of a unit. I'd hit A twice for the brute, E once for the lasher, and then Z for the construction vehicle. And then I'd hit T. And then that does repeat, right? Clear Q is also G, excuse me. Stop is G, clear Q is G, and then repeat is T. Is that on here? I think I have like this simple build card turned on or something like that. That's weird. I don't see that on here. Or maybe it's just because I'm in a replay. Same thing for the bot lab, right? If I wanted to do that build queue we talked about, just single left click, hit G, hold shift, hit C twice, X 3 times, I hit E once, and then T. And suddenly suddenly you have that build queue turned on. So back to like, yeah, like maybe the more complex tasks, the having grid turned on is super efficient in some regards. Looking at this game state, how do you feel about like what do you have any comments on like what you were thinking in this position here?
It's difficult to cast my mind back to my exact thought process. I think I was just hoping that the tech switch to vehicles would give me like you know, some more army power to kind of do some damage. I know he's been pretty much free expanding for a long time because he's expanding with his commander, which makes it difficult to harass.
I haven't seen his commander. Can you? I'll just turn this off. Okay, so he's up here, top mid, which is this is a great place to go quickly. I've seen a lot of guys do this, right? Is they'll make a beeline to this position and like, yeah, we have this LLT here, which maybe could be a little farther placed, excuse me. Could be a little more here, right? But suddenly if you have this and the LLT here, everything behind it is free, right? You can do the same thing, and I would, if I could comment on anything about your expansion pattern, is just getting an extra con over here earlier to take this, the same having that kind of parity with your opponent's expansion. And maybe if you are trying to take this, you're also moving units there to defend it. Kind of a follow-up to that is, say you have like a pack of grunts here, you have a pack of grunts here, and you have a pack of grunts here. Ignore what he has on the map. There's no LLTs or anything. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, I want to like pressure and harass. So like, you know, this one's moving forward. Maybe this one's moving this way. And these grunts are moving that way. These 3 choke points or positions you've secured with those grunts, you're moving them away from those positions, right? So it's like you're coming back and reinforcing those same positions with grunts out of your factory. And like what this ends up kind of looking like is, well, you have the units here, which are now over here, and the units you sent them to reinforce is like, it's kind of like this, I'm not sure what the word is for it, but it's, you're reinforcing these strategic choke points you had, like, you want to sit at with your grunts, but you're also using the ones that you have there already to be pushing out forward onto the map, and you're just trying to reinforce these choke point positions from your factory. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
so
That, I mean, that sounds so. I think the reason I avoid doing that sort of play is I'm often quite scared to have my army split up like that, because I know if I'm holding multiple chokes with my army, then if he brings his whole army into one place, then I'm gonna get smashed. So,
right.
but I'm sure there's also, you know, good reasons to kind of do it the way you said, because then it leaves you more open to kind of harassing and doing attacks from different angles, and you know, attacking different things at the same time.
Right. Perhaps that's a little higher level, or maybe later down the road. Like, I'm. It's just something I've been doing in my own games, and I'm not saying that it's good. I'm just like trying to tell you what I do in my own games, and maybe have success with. To your point about being spread out with armies, with your grunt armies, I'll say, and you're trying to defend yourself against punctuated attacks. Well, suddenly you've made two-pounder straight away early out of your second factory, right? So if he's coming to bear right through this choke point, right, huge attack, it's like, well, it's like right in front where you made two-pounders, right? If you've scouted a big unit, like all his units are up here with those grunts that are filtering onto this side of the map, well, that just gives you the opportunity to like move your extra units into that position. Okay, you had, you know, 20 grunts here. Well, you know, a huge attack. You have 20 grunts mid, a big attack is coming to center. You've seen it. You just split off half of your units and go that way. All your production is moving that way. And you had that small army there already. And it's like, ooh, look, we have build power. Grab these guys, hit X, space, and then shift, and then just start clicking LLTs, right? You know the attack's coming. You don't need mexes. You need LLTs, right? So having units out on the map and like pressuring, it's like you're gonna be you're you'll see your opponent what he's projecting much more easily instead of kind of being in the dark, like quite literally. So like we see, I know earlier we had the really super super amazing radar in this position. You had the single grunt here, like these grunts. Can I? Yeah, you can have them spread out like that. You know, they've got the choke points. Couple of these grunts here could be all the way over here, right? So any kind of like run by, I'm kind of harping on the same thing here, but you'll just give yourself so much more vision, which is I mean, the art of war is deception, right? So it's like the more you can kind of be be in the light about your opponent's actions, you're gonna be doing well. Exploiters are really good. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that attack, I think, until it was already defeated by the exploiters. So I think I was focused elsewhere.
So I will say, like, you weren't expecting to beat Vader, right? I'm assuming, or like you just want to.
No, of course not.
Okay.
But it'd be good to be able to take the step to be able to defeat players like that. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. It's I was just gonna comment on. It's like we're 10 minutes into the game. I mean, you're down 2K metal, right? Being like, this is a good position. Like you're going toe to toe with a really strong player, and you know, of course, the longer the game goes on, the chances of you winning go farther and farther down. But like the differential I'm seeing between you two isn't that big, right? It's like he's got 4 construction turrets up, 2 factories. You know, you've got 2 construction turrets up and 2 factories. Like, well, how did he get the 2K metal, right? It's like, maybe he was a little more efficient with expanding, right? So it's like there's a lot of room for improvement here, but it's like how far you've come is pretty nice, man. You're doing really good against this exact player. It's a big army here. Nice. Like moving the pounder up to these choke points is like you put a pounder here, right? Trying getting one up here might be a little awkward, but I mean the map is kind of laney once it gets it's developed, so to speak. Maybe this is where the things start to fall apart, right?
a little bit, yeah. There's a sort of sneaks into the base here, and it's not great.
So these cons have been idle for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got outmaneuvered here. Like
Right.
there's so much stuff going on.
3
There's
attacks.
units everywhere, and
3 attacks at once. I see you're playing fairly zoomed out, so this is good to see. This is the first step to handling this kind of thing, right? This feels so bad, right? Having to chase down a stationary drone with your commander, right?
yeah.
Believe me when I say this, Razor, I've lost a lot of games with bars. I know, it's like if you've lost to it, there's a good chance I've lost to the same exact thing. So I don't know how much further we can analyze into this replay. It's like maybe starting to fall apart now. Like we covered a lot of stuff. You think we can look at the other one quickly, or?
Yeah, for sure. I actually think I lost that one even harder. Like it just felt like he had so much stuff.
Oh, this is Grassy Tiger, so is the next opponent you submitted. Shout out Grassy Tiger. I think he's another 1v1 grinder in some regards.
Yeah, he hasn't been playing for a while though. I was
Yep.
surprised how good he did because he didn't know the map at the start. He asked like, "Can bots move up the hills?" I was like, "Well, yeah, some of them, but like, there are cliffs as well."
He's one of those CCR specialists, right?
Yeah, I was very impressed with how well he did because considering he doesn't know the map and he hasn't been playing much recently, I still got completely crushed. And I farmed this map quite a lot, so
Mm-hmm. So while we're on the topic of expanding, in some, I'll just give you my expansions. Let me skip this. Okay. So say I was oh, that's interesting. You spawned up there. So I know you do like the first con comes here, grabs these mexes. I've been delaying this radar here, and in favor of moving it here.
right.
So hear me out. Like if we have the radar here, later it's more economically effective. It's like we're getting the mexes up quicker. Okay, checks my box of being more like greedy in some regards. So we have the radar up there. We have this radar here. Suddenly everything's protected, and hey, like our factory production is moving here. So it's like, to me that spreads out the intel, so to speak. So first con comes up here, grabs these. I go mex, and then come over this way. Second con, we talked about that. Does this thing. Third con grabs these 3 mexes, radar, these 4 mexes. The fifth con comes up here and grabs these 2 and these 3. And then the sixth con comes and grabs these. So I mean, I don't know if doing the same thing every time makes you predictable, but it's like it lets you practice the same thing, like maybe refining the same strategy as opposed to exploring and figuring it out like Grassy Tiger. Just figuring out what expansion works up here. It's like, well, if you spawn here every time and you refine the same expansion pattern, it's like you'll just get better and free up doing other things eventually. So um I will say that the first the first con, cap this max, right? Put the radar here. Then we just go LLT, LLT, skip these mexes, and then we come over here and like add an LLT and then cap these. So something like that. And the reason of like making these 2 LLTs, of course, is like specifically it's like you can't get past that, right? And if you get them up early enough, you don't have to worry about things sneaking back here, and you can even cap these mexes. And I like to put some E up here even. Like once this mexes are capped, you can start adding on wind turbines there. That's kind of long-winded. Okay, I get a chance to look at your commander's positioning here a little more. Okay, back. You see what just happened there? Is we went, looked at this, turned, looked at this, and then we turned back and made this mex. And then I guess we're gonna turn back and make this wind turbine third and make this wind turbine fourth, right? And this is just like, look at the rotations with our commander, like 1, 2, 3, and then we move. So we could do like,
Yeah.
you could do it a little bit differently. You could do like I see you really cleanly placed your build radius between these 2 mexes, so you don't have to walk. But you could go like mex 2 wind turbines here, and then do the walk, and that would be 1 rotation and then a walk. So on this map, not sure if you do it. Let's see. I'm gonna speed this up a little. Wind is down. I guess it works out, right? Just doing 4 wind turbines before factory. You only really need about plus 60. And with half an E-bar, maybe you could make an argument like you don't need the 4th wind turbine. Maybe we excess a little E, but it's not the end of the world. con first. I like that. A little more rotation things here, and haha, we have the same kind of energy stalling issue, so I don't want to harp on this too much, but after the factory finishes, you want to get up at least 4 wind turbines, right? We can't do that immediately because wind sucks, so I would just go ahead and make the maybe 1 or 2 solars. Like, where would I place those? Like, of course, in the build radius of the commander. This can be a little awkward finding a good spot for these. I like putting them against mexes because they make these nice little walls.
Yeah.
Even if you kind of tuck them up, like say we put one there, there's that little corner niche right here that fits an LLT perfectly, right? So check this out, Razor. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's 90 metal sitting right here. Do you ever go for that?
Not often. Like I'll sometimes go get it once I get the res bots out, but I don't tend to get it early.
I'm not gonna lie, the way I do my build order, I kind of like always am stalling metal. I'm trying to get up this mex and this mex at there. Like it ends up working. I have 2 cons making 2 mexes at the same time, and I've ran out of metal. And I just waddle down here with my commander and just gobble up that 90, and then come back and assist a factory. It's just like super clean. So if you notice that happening in your early game, come down here and just grab that metal. And even if you're stalling on E super hard, like this position, maybe you can even make an argument for getting this 600 energy right here in this tree. So nice way to fix your opens. As far like I really like this. I mean, I know you made a couple mistakes here, like not making the solar earlier, but as far as like what con 3 grunts, con or early radar, I mean, this all looks really good so far. It's being like a stable open. You're even being really aggressive this time and sending everything across the map immediately. Look at how does he have so many wind turbines? What? I don't understand how he has that many wind turbines already.
No, I lost this one really hard. I was very impressed by Grassy Tiger.
Well, he's being really greedy with the build power, right? He's got enough energy, and he just made what 4 cons already. You've got 3. The third one's just coming off the line, you know. So he was really greedy with his build power, it seems, and of course has got a healthy energy lead on you. Looks like 5k energy, pretty even metal, right? I'm not sure how often you watch your own replays, but something I really like to reference is energy excess. I think this is a really great way to clean up your play. If you're looking for somewhere to improve and you're not sure what to do, look at your own replays and check out energy excess and see what that looks like.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't tend to have very much of, just because I'm usually stalling instead. So.
Well, you could be like your teammate Andy and just overmake E. Like I think he's pretty good about that.
Yeah, he's incredible with radars as well. He makes a lot of radars.
Yeah, back to that first con, like Andy would make something like radar LLT, 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 radar LLT, and then come in like grab X's or something like that. He's just so defensive, it's wild. It's like he doesn't care if it comes up solar, you know. You just win 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later.
Yeah, I'm usually in a rush to kind of cap the mexes because I know that if I don't, I'm going to start stalling. But on the other hand, yeah, I don't know. You end up without as many expansions later on if you don't secure more ground. So I don't know.
Like personally, I like the Blue Deer style where he just naked expands everywhere. Maybe Zloves kind of does the same thing. More vehicle player, I think. But if you want to practice like, naked expanding with grunts, I would look at some Blue Deer replays. Trying to think who else plays like that really well.
Yeah, that was a really bad engagement. Just got completely fried there.
It's fine. Oh, you do. Of course, if we want to avoid taking engagements like that, you can just back up and spread out our units. But Not the end of the world, right? It's all a learning experience, right? You have to develop an intuition for these things, more or less. See, this is a huge. I think this is a little bit of a blunder. You had a perfect broadside opportunity there. He's kind of running straight in, and you could have just kind of held that arc and been backing up and cleaned, like maybe step into the grunts and then be kiting them back, right? You have to like close the gap stepping into them, but then of course we can back up.
Yeah, I think my thinking was that if he's gonna keep coming, he'll also walk into the exploiter as well, and I
Um,
can.
okay, fair. Didn't see that, but yeah, perfect. Running back to the defenses makes sense. I know we're kind of blasting through this one, but I'm kind of seeing some of the same things. I feel like you're actually expanding a little more quickly. Huh. Maybe in both games we're not expanding to this. So with the first con, try getting to these two positions blocked off. I think we talked about that a
Yeah,
little bit. And then of course getting to this bottom left, right? So it's like this is what you're really looking to do. And then we're in the like mid game air quotes, and you can start thinking about like splitting the map, right? And moving into like the central plateau area, having armies running this way and everywhere, right? So um really important, I think, to get these positions locked up though, at least.
yeah. I think I need to build more cons. Honestly, I always end up feeling like I haven't got enough cons to do quite everything I want to do. Uh, and it's not just that I don't build them because I think they're rubbish. You know, I think cons are fantastic, but I'm often sort of worried that if I pause like unit production, I'll just get overrun. You know, so
Mhm.
especially because a lot of people they're very greedy early on, like my opponent was here, and that means by the time they get to like 8 minutes into the game like I am now, they probably can make units faster than me. So I feel like I'm a bit behind, and I've just got to keep pumping out units so I don't just get rolled over. But that makes me further and further behind on the macro side of things as a result. So I don't know. It's tough. I think if your opponent has a really greedy opening and you don't find a way to punish them for it, it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do in those
I would
situations.
I could comment on that and maybe bring this back to the Zerg analogy, right? You want to um, build this build build the build power earlier, then move into unit production, right? So I think two ways to know you're doing this right. You're up on metal over your opponent at in the early game, maybe before 10 minutes, right? You know you've expanded more quickly. How are you doing that? Well, you made more cons earlier, more quickly, right? So check. This is a good way to check to see, am I doing the build power correctly? Another way to do it, surprisingly enough, is losing the game. If you've lost because you've made too many cons and you literally didn't have enough grunts, instead of thinking, oh, I won't have enough grunts if I make a con here. So then you can start dialing it back, right? So it's like you want to be losing the game because you've made too much build power. And that's totally okay because you have like, it's better than losing the game because you didn't do it at the right time early enough and 10 minutes into the game, 15 minutes into the game, you can't even match them on army because they have more metal than you, right? So two little checks for that, I think.
Yeah.
I will say too is I'm not sure if you alt. I don't know what the hotkey is to make construction bots out of a factory, if that's a thing. When you're not on grid, but on grid it's just Alt Z. So if I sitting here and kind of back to our previous discussions, we have the radar here, we have the radar here. We've got grunts on these far points to find run bys. If you have this setup here, you're not getting pressured, right? And like if I had this exact setup right here, I had two radars and six grunts spread out across like this, I would just come back to the factory and just all and queue like two or three construction bots up, because I just know nothing is gonna be able to, without me reacting, cross this line, cross any of these lines, and come and start attacking me. It's gonna give me time to react. So I'd be feel comfortable in this position to start thinking, I don't need to be raiding. I don't need to be attacking. I just need to add on build power, right? Or scale my eco. It's maybe like a play style thing. I know people play a lot differently than me, but in my mind, it's like we're looking to split the map and scale my E, right? So how we get there might not be as aggressive or like I'm throwing punches at you the whole time. I just want to split the map and get to T2 and then do more strategic things like with more important units or better units, I guess.
Yeah, I think macro is still my weakness compared to like people around my OS or people, you know, a little bit higher OS.
Mm-hmm.
And my strength, I think, is like aggression and raiding. So if my opponent isn't the type of person to poke up and they, you know, they do sort of start, you know, where I'm expected to start, I think I'm not gonna say where I excel, but where I do, you know, pretty good is inflicting eco damage. But if my opponent builds a lot of LLTs, you know, and they're playing in a way I'm not used to, then I do tend to really struggle because that's you know the one thing I'm kind of okay at.
Okay, so hearing that, I'm thinking that you need to be like aware of where the game is headed and what it's going to look like. How do you win the game, or what is this going to look like 10, 15 minutes from now when you're like T2 or even T3, right? So it's like my opponent's porked up. My thought process there would be just go T2, right? He's playing defensive and not even attacking me. I can get Radar and Grunts up, split the map. No LLTs, nothing. Just grab all the mexes and just maybe go T2 or something like that. But at your OS, at this like 30 range, I still think what you're trying to improve on macro side is going to carry you much higher, much higher OS. Not even rating. One thing I would say specifically is I know like it's easier to spend your metal with going second factory. Start thinking about playing with air. And getting like you're playing core, the paralyzer drone is like the best unit you have in 1v1s. So it's like leveraging that is something you can start experimenting and practicing with too, you know. So and that will help you out against players you're not quite sure what to do against. They've porked up. Well, aha, I have 30 grunts and 10 paralyzer drones and can stun all your units and you know roll through you this way. So I think at 30 OS that's going to be totally viable. Totally viable.
Yeah, I that's one thing I really need to start doing more is using shurikens. I think they're just a bit. It's kind of like the unknown to me because I haven't used them much, and so I just sort of shy away from giving it a try. But it is always really frustrating when you do run into Shuris at like 12 minutes. You know, all your
Yeah.
tanks are stunned, and you're like, oh,
Fuck.
GG.
Yeah.
Because
GG. Exactly. uh, maybe we can wrap it up here. This has been right at an hour. I will say, something I've recently been experimenting with is these alt keys set auto group. Is this something you do at all or have set up?
yeah, I do have some auto keys set up. So I think the scouts, for example, when they come out, they're on like my button one or something,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a few of those I have configured. I think I actually have Shuris on like number 8 or something like
Well,
that. I can't remember because I don't make them very much, but
this
yeah.
is what I was gonna say. Yeah, I have Shuris on 3 and fighters on 4. Um, and that just makes it so much easier. You just grab the Shuris and move them where you want to be. Right. So I think Resbots. I'm still trying to find a home for Resbots. It's not completely ideal having them all on one hotkey, but as far as keeping them alive goes, I kind of value that in my mind. It's like, oh, I can get these out of danger more efficiently and quickly and reliably having them on that key. So might not be the best play, but I'm still kind of messing around with it. Cool, man. Razor, hope you get to submit some more replays so we get to work more in the future, man. This is pretty fun.
Cool. Yeah, cheers. Thank you for the review. Appreciate it as always.
Yeah, if you're all still here, you want to like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know. If you want to get involved in the Bar Academy, head on over to the main Discord and check out the channel. There's a lot of great mentors there that are more than happy to help you out. And yeah, just submit a replay and we'll be there. So thanks, everyone. Cheers.